Good morning. It's nice to hear noise in this room. All right. Welcome to the May, just after Mother's Day, open meeting of the Federal Communications Commission. Madam Secretary, would you please introduce our agenda this morning?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good morning to you and good morning, Commissioners. For today's meeting, you will hear 3 items for your consideration. First, you will consider a report and order that would provide new opportunities for unlicensed field disturbance sensor devices, such as radars, to operate in the 57 to 71 gigahertz band and foster innovative products and services while ensuring coexistence with other unlicensed technologies and federal incumbents in the band. Second, you will consider a report and order and further notice of proposed rulemaking that would ensure that current and future satellite services are preserved and protected in the 12.2 gigahertz band by declining to authorize mobile operations in the band, while further investigating the potential to expand fixed use or permit unlicensed use. The notice of proposed rulemaking and order would continue development of a pipeline of mid-band spectrum by proposing to authorize the 12.7 gigahertz band for mobile broadband and other expanded uses. Third, you will consider an order, further notice, and notice of inquiry that would expand our call blocking requirements to ensure even greater protections for consumers. The item would enlist service providers in the fight against unwanted robocalls by extending our 24-hour traceback requirement to cover all voice service providers in the call path, enhancing existing requirements to effectively mitigate illegal traffic upon commission notification, and expanding our Know Your Upstream Provider requirements to all voice service providers. The item would also seek comment on several other options to further enhance consumer protections, including a proposal to require terminating providers to offer analytics-based call blocking. This is your agenda for today. Please note item 4, a restricted adjudicatory matter from the Media Bureau as listed in the May 11th Sunshine Notice has been adopted by the Commission and deleted from today's agenda. The first item is titled Amendment of Section 15.255 of the Commission's Rules and will be presented by the Office of Engineering and Technology. Ron Rapati, Chief of the Office, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge a momentous loss for the FCC family, because earlier this month, former FCC Chair Newt Minow died at age 97. He was appointed by President Kennedy at age 34, making him the youngest person ever to lead this agency. And to this day, he remains the standard all FCC leaders aspire to reach. Now, he's best remembered for calling television a vast wasteland, prompting Hollywood to rebuke him by naming the doomed ship on Gilligan's Island the SS Minow. But his legendary challenge to America's broadcasters was really just a small blip in a remarkable life. Newt Minow was a sergeant in the Army during World War II. He was a clerk at the Supreme Court, and he served as a top advisor to Adlai Stevenson's presidential campaigns. Now, at the FCC, he approved the launch of the first commercial communications satellite. In fact, the year before last, I got to know him when he described to me what happened when the first commercial communications satellite, which was called Telstar 1, was launched into orbit. Now, months later, I was giving a speech with the Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Gavin Newsom at a space center in California. There were so many bigwigs at this gathering, and I got up to the podium and I told them what I learned from Newt Minow and how early FCC work cleared the way for the commercial satellite activities we see today. And the audience listened with rapt attention when I told his stories, because he was a legend. Now, Newt Minow was also a pioneer for public television, helping secure the initial funding for Sesame Street and serving as chairman of the board for PBS. In addition, he led the effort to create the system for presidential debates that's been a political institution since 1976. For his remarkable life, President Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is our country's highest civilian honor. But if you were to ask Newt Minow what his greatest accomplishment was, he would tell you that it was helping to raise 3 remarkably successful daughters, and I don't doubt it. At 96, he reached out to me as the youngest man to ever serve as the chair of the FCC and to graciously welcome the first woman to permanently take on that role. He was the best of us, and his work and legacy has made the FCC and the United States proud. May his memory be a blessing. All right, and with that, Mr. Rapasi, please proceed.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. OET is pleased to present for your consideration a report and order that would revise the Commission's rules to provide new opportunities for unlicensed field disturbance sensor devices, such as radars, to operate in the 60 gigahertz band in a manner that promotes coexistence with other unlicensed technologies that also use the band. This action is a significant step in the continuing expansion and evolution of our rules that will greatly accelerate the deployment and development of new and innovative radar applications. The report and order also reflects the work of different unlicensed interests that have taken throughout the course of this proceeding to identify a means to operate in a compatible manner, as well as the engagement of government entities that are also authorized to operate in the band. Joining me at the table today are Michael Ha, Chief of OET's Policy and Rules Division, Bauman Badapur, Chief of the Technical Rules Branch in the division, and Ann Ride, Senior Engineer in the Technical Rules Branch. Ann will present the item. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. Today's report and order for your consideration would revise the Commission's Part 15 rule to provide increased flexibility and opportunities to innovate for unlicensed field disturbance sensor devices, including radars. These devices operate in the 57 to 71 gigahertz range under Section 15.255 of the Commission's rules. Other types of unlicensed devices that currently operate in this band include WiGig and other indoor and outdoor wireless local area networking devices, as well as outdoor fixed point-to-point communication links. Under the existing rules, which date to 1995, radar devices had to operate at power levels much lower than those used by unlicensed communication devices. High-frequency, low-cost chipsets have become widely available, providing opportunities to innovate and create new applications that take advantage of technological advancements. These new applications, along with a developing worldwide market, have led to increased demand for unlicensed mobile radar applications in the 60 gigahertz band. The Commission previously granted waivers to a number of parties to operate radars at higher power than permitted in the rules for applications to detect children left unattended in hot cars, to monitor patients in healthcare settings, and to assist individuals with tactile impairments. In the notice of proposed rulemaking that began this proceeding, the Commission recognized the potential to enhance the usefulness of the 60 gigahertz band by modifying the rules for unlicensed radars. When the NPRM was issued, there was no consensus for how best to accommodate new radar applications in conjunction with existing unlicensed communication users. The order before you reflects the work of all interested parties to identify a path for successful coexistence in the band, with significant breakthroughs documented in filings dating to last November and late this February. On the federal side, the work of a technical interchange group between the Commission and various federal agencies ensure a productive and successful coordination with our colleagues at NTIA. The order you are considering clarifies the relationship between radars and field disturbance sensors. A radar is a special type of field disturbance sensor. The order adopts the proposal to permit mobile radar operations in the band and removes specific provisions for short-range interactive motion sensing that are no longer needed. The order also recognizes two distinctive types of radar technologies anticipated to be deployed in the band and adopts appropriate technical rule modifications to allow greater flexibility for the development of new applications than has been permitted under the existing rules. The order also adopts rules that will allow radar operation on board unmanned aircraft flying at altitudes less than 400 feet above ground level, limited to the 60 to 64 gigahertz band. And finally, the order addresses matters related to compliance testing and the use of equipment that currently operates under waivers of the existing rules. This order is designed to unleash new and innovative unlicensed applications in the 60 gigahertz band. The rule changes are expected to fuel development of state-of-the-art and life-saving applications that the American public will use on a daily basis. Unlicensed radars can, for example, increase quality of life for persons with functional impairments by permitting devices to be controlled through gestures rather than direct touch. They can detect infants inadvertently left in hot vehicles, saving countless precious lives. And they can do even more, improving operation of autonomous vehicles, delivering home automation and environmental control services, or monitoring vulnerable patients in both hospital and in-home settings. At the same time, the revised rules do not change the existing technical parameters for devices that have been operating in the 60 gigahertz band. Preserving these rules, along with advancement in communication technology, will support a new generation of unlicensed communication devices to be introduced in the band. These include immersive reality applications that will enhance mission-critical applications in healthcare, industrial, education, and public safety settings. In short, the rules presented in the order before you would expand the types of unlicensed operations that can be deployed in the 60 gigahertz band, which in turn will lead to new, innovative, and even life-saving products that will benefit Americans in a multitude of ways. For these reasons, staff recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges solely for technical and conforming edits.
Thank you so much. We will now hear comments from the bench. We'll start with Commissioner Carr.
Thank you so much to the chair and the team for this item. I really like it. It's one of those items where you can see very clearly some of the near-term benefits and innovations of what we're doing. We talked about kids being left in hot vehicles. We talked about something a little further out as we look at hand gestures, how that could potentially be a way of the future in terms of interacting with smartphones and other sort of technology, and then there's sort of a whole other set of potential innovations that we really only vaguely understand. And so I think it's a great item because, again, near-term stuff, we know what benefits can come from this, but it also creates a platform upon which a lot of other innovations can take place as well. So I think it's a good item, a forward-looking item, so thanks to the team, and thanks again to the chair for bringing it forward.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Commissioner Starks, who I believe has an ill little one at home. So through the power of communications, Commissioner Starks, take it away.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Like many households, very fortunate to be able to continue to work while I'm still taking care of a little one who feels unwell. But to the item, echo the statements of Commissioner Carr. Certainly feel that this was a technical item, but outstanding in particular in how it's going to help vulnerable populations going forward. I'm very excited to see those that future and innovative products and services that will be to come. Thanks to the team for all the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I'm happy to approve today's report and order. It adopts rules that reflect extensive industry cooperation, coordination, and consensus that will facilitate the deployment of new technologies in the 60 gigahertz band, industry consensus that I and my colleagues are always gratified to see. This item establishes rules that promote compatibility with previous unlicensed operations in the band and protect federal users from harmful interference. So it's a smart and timely response to engineering innovation and the creation of new capabilities. Thanks to the staff very much for their thorough work on this technical item.
Thank you, Commissioners. Welcome to the radar revolution. It's no longer just for tracking planes and measuring weather patterns. That's because we're on the cusp of deploying radar technology for a much wider range of uses. So get ready, because what comes next is exciting. The odds are we will see this technology used for real-time traffic management that can reduce roadway congestion. We also may see this technology used to make our devices more accessible through gesture controls, which could be a game changer for those with limited mobility. Thanks to early waivers from this agency, it has already been used to monitor for children left in hot cars, triggering alerts that can save lives. And we are seeing the development of radar-based breathing systems that can help keep a safe watch over premature infants in neonatal intensive care units. Now, all of this is possible, and our work here today is a big reason why. In this decision, we are updating our approach to the 60 gigahertz band. We are modernizing it so that it can be used to its full potential. And that means expanding mobile operations for radar technology, increasing where and how it can be used. So get ready to see augmented reality and virtual reality applications and a whole lot of other high-speed, data-intensive, innovative activities in this band. You don't get this far, this fast in a revolution without a dynamic squad. The effort to update the 60 gigahertz band benefited immeasurably from a broad group of stakeholders, including unlicensed actors, drone operators, robotics interests, and automotive companies who all work together to find a path forward. I want to thank them for their collaboration. I also want to thank the team at the agency who helped make this creative approach to the band a reality. Damian Ariza, Balman Badapur, David Duarte, Michael Ha, Kevin Holmes, Steve Jones, Ira Keltz, Nicholas Oris, Siobhan Philemon, Jameson Prime, Ronald Rapazzi, Tom Struble, Hugh Van Tile, and Ann Ride from the Office of Engineering and Technology. Carrie Hicks, Ethan Jeans, John Lockwood, and Joel Tabenblatt from the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, Patrick Brogan, Julia McHenry, Michelle Schaefer, Don Stockdale, Patrick Sun, Emily Talaga, and Alex Yankovich from the Office of Economics and Analytics, Deborah Broderson, David Horowitz, Bill Richardson, and Xin Yu from the Office of General Counsel, and Michael Gasso and Joy Rogsdale from the Office of Communications Business Opportunities, as well as Jeremy Marcus, Ryan Donald, and Victoria Randazzo from the Enforcement Bureau. And with that, we will proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item's adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, please announce the next item on today's agenda.
Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners, item 2 on your agenda is titled Expanding Flexible Use of the 12.2 to 12.7 gigahertz band, expanding use of the 12.7 to 13.25 gigahertz band for mobile broadband or other expanded use, and will be presented by the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau and the Office of Engineering and Technology. Joel Taubenblatt, Chief of the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Taubenblatt, please proceed.
Good morning, Chairwoman Rosenworcel and Commissioners. Today, the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau and the Office of Engineering and Technology are pleased to present for your consideration an item that would set the Commission on a path towards expanding use of more than 1,000 megahertz of mid-band spectrum in the 12 gigahertz band. The RNO and further notice would protect and preserve satellite services in the lower 500 megahertz of the band while continuing to explore unlicensed and fixed use in that portion of the band. The NPRM would propose to repurpose the upper 550 megahertz of the band for mobile broadband and other expanded uses. OET Chief Rapazzi and I would like to thank the teams from the WTB and OET, as well as from other bureaus and offices for their contributions. With us at the table are Jessica Graffinius, Assistant Bureau Chief in the Wireless Bureau, and from the Broadband Division of the Bureau, we have Madeline Mayor, Assistant Division Chief, Simon Banyai, Senior Attorney Advisor, and Natasha Wiltz, Honors Attorney, and Natasha will present the item.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. The item before you puts the Commission on a path to expand the beneficial use of up to 1,050 megahertz of mid-band spectrum by a diverse set of terrestrial and satellite communication systems. This item includes a report and order and further notice of proposed rulemaking addressing the 12.2 to 12.7 gigahertz band, referred to as the 12.2 gigahertz band, and a notice of proposed rulemaking and order addressing the 12.7 to 13.25 gigahertz band, referred to as the 12.7 gigahertz band. The actions in these two bands will help ensure that current and future satellite services relied upon by millions of people across the country are preserved and protected in the 12.2 gigahertz band, while also continuing to develop a pipeline of mid-band spectrum for flexible use in the 12.7 gigahertz band. Starting with the 12.2 gigahertz band, on January 15, 2021, the Commission released a notice of proposed rulemaking seeking comment on whether a mobile allocation could be added to the 12.2 gigahertz band without causing harmful interference to incumbent licensees. Based on analysis of the extensive record in response to that notice, the report and order before you finds that mobile service in the 12.2 gigahertz band would impose a significant risk of harmful interference to existing and emergent services. Such interference could undermine investments made by incumbent licensees and jeopardize their potential to provide new services to underserved communities, including rural communities. Therefore, the report and order declines to authorize high-powered terrestrial mobile use in the 12.2 gigahertz band. Although the report and order finds that a mobile allocation cannot be accommodated in the 12.2 gigahertz band, the associated further notice of proposed rulemaking explores other ways of expanding use of the 12.2 gigahertz band. For instance, the further notice seeks comment on permitting one-way point-to-point or point-to-multipoint fixed links, or two-way point-to-point fixed links at a higher power than the current rules allow. The further notice also seeks comment on the possibility of allowing two-way point-to-multipoint links, and alternatively, the further notice explores adding indoor-only underlay and unlicensed use in the 12.2 gigahertz band. As I mentioned earlier, today's item also includes a notice of proposed rulemaking and order on the 12.7 to 13.25 gigahertz band, the next step in an examination that the Commission initiated through a notice of inquiry in October of 2022. The notice before you proposes to repurpose some or all of the 550 megahertz of spectrum in the 12.7 gigahertz band for mobile broadband or other expanded uses. To that end, the notice proposes to allow certain incumbents to stay in the band while relocating or repacking other incumbents. Alternatively, it explores possible arrangements for spectrum sharing among incumbents and new entrants, such as using an automated spectrum management system. The notice also proposes licensing, operating, and technical rules consistent with other flexible use bands. And lastly, the notice seeks comment on whether to protect in-band federal operations by establishing a coordination zone or through other methods, and how best to protect federal operations in adjacent bands. To effectively repurpose the 12.7 gigahertz band, the order included with the notice directs incumbents to provide accurate information about the nature and density of their use of the 12.7 gigahertz band. Specifically, the order directs fixed and mobile broadcast auxiliary services and cable television relay services licensees that use the 12.7 gigahertz band to certify the accuracy of the information reflected on their licenses. The Wireless Telecommunications Bureau and the Office of Engineering and Technology recommend adoption of this item and request editorial privileges to make technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench. Commissioner Carr.
Thank you so much to the team for your work on this item. I think we are in the midst of sort of a new flourishing of convergence when you look at the various technologies that are available for connectivity. We have this latest generation of low Earth orbit satellites. We have sort of a next generation of fixed wireless out there, obviously 5G. mobile, not to mention all the high-speed wired connections as well. And I think while this item has some technical features to it as well and is driven by the Bureau's analysis, I do think it also reflects the fact that we got to take a balanced approach to make sure that all of these technologies have the opportunity to succeed and thrive on their own merit. So thanks for your work on this, and I think as we go forward in this proceeding, we have to continue to put the pedal down as hard as we can to continue to free up spectrum for 5G and other use cases. So thanks again to the team. Thanks.
Commissioner Starks.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. A massive part of our economy today and our vision for a more prosperous and secure future tomorrow depends on our ability to pack more information, more users, more applications into the scarce resource we know, of course, is spectrum. Part of the challenge with spectrum policy is that it takes time to develop the frequencies we unlock for consumers. And so that means we have to lean forward, act early if we want to successfully untap underused spectrum. But it also means that we have to not be afraid to adapt the best available evidence as we steer the ship. And so that's what we're seeing here today in 12.2, 12.7 bands. In 12.2, we're correcting course in response to the technical evidence. As some of you might remember, I voiced originally concerns about whether mobile broadband and satellite service could successfully share this frequency band. But in the interest of supporting efficient spectrum use and, of course, doing more with less, I was open, in fact, committed to following the engineering wherever it went. And so based on the studies filed, our engineers have concluded to date that high-powered mobile broadband, as we heard, when deployed throughout the country, will interfere with established and emerging satellite services that serve millions of customers and growing. And so I would have welcomed a path forward that allowed both services to thrive, but for now it's time for us to adapt. And so in 12.7, we are in fact doing that leaning forward. We're proposing specific rules to lift 550 megahertz of underused spectrum off the ground while protecting or transitioning incumbents, fully exploring sharing-based alternatives. And while many of the details, of course, remain undecided here, there is one thing I think that this item makes abundantly clear, and that is the best way to get the spectrum into the hands of users could very well be an auction. And so we certainly need our authority to hold one to be restored. So thank you to the Commission staff who developed this item. It has my strong support.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I'm happy to support today's item. The report and order makes the right policy call by protecting NGSO FSS incumbents who have engaged in significant investment in the 12.2 to 12.7 gigahertz band. The report and order also gets the engineering right, considering both the same incumbents' ongoing deployment of state-of-the-art satellite technology and overall trends in Earth station design and regulation. Today's NGSO FSS satellites frequently speak to arrays of electronically steered receivers. Signal rejection within those receivers is frequently achieved very close to the desired reception angle with arrays composed of antennas of limited dynamic range. The power levels and coverage profiles of terrestrial networks risk saturating such arrays with interference from networks of powerful terrestrial transmitters, including via side lobes even when care is taken with terrestrial antenna angles. Barring significant technology developments driving down the price and complexity of individual array elements while driving up quality, this will probably be the case for some time to come. And unless and until we see terrestrial technologies deployed in real-world situations, the FCC has, in my view, no business betting the store on them by undermining the viability of fixed incumbent services in active deployment at large scale for which there is significant demonstrated public demand. And while I am hopeful that there's a way to allow satellite and two-way high-power fixed wireless service to coexist in the 12.2 to 12.7 gigahertz band, I believe the FCC needs to make sure that it's not putting the cart before the horse and that it protects incumbents. That's why I'm grateful that my colleagues agreed to include language in the further notice that impresses upon parties who comment in this proceeding an obligation to provide clear and detailed technical and operational information, including studies, preferably real-world studies, that support these proposals. Without such proposals, the FCC will never emerge from the quagmire of incommensurable contradictory technical proposals that are laced with advocacy, as we saw with the record in response to the 2021 12.2 to 12.7 gigahertz NPRM. I'm also happy to support the proposals made in today's 12.7 to 13.2 gigahertz NPRM. A high-power exclusive use licensing approach makes the most sense in a band where there are few incumbents who can be easily relocated without the need for spectrum sharing. which is otherwise the preferred approach in a congested spectrum band, and therefore I look forward to a fulsome record. Finally, I want to sincerely thank the staff at WTB and OET for their hard work on this item and for the commitment it took to fully parse all the sometimes contradictory technical points presented for their review. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few weeks ago, I joined the National Science Foundation to discuss 6G wireless and the potential it holds. That's right, 6G. Just like with the early days of 5G, 6G discussions have started with big ideas and big goals. And just like in the early days of 5G, the scrum for 6G is already underway. We're seeing countries around the world launching programs, projects, and alliances to ensure their foothold in the next generation of wireless technology. Now, of course, you could say on good authority that no one knows yet with precision what 6G will entail, and you would be right. But if we have learned anything from our experience rolling out 5G, it is that wireless policy matters for economic and national security. That's true in the United States, and it is true globally. It's also true that fortune favors the bold. So today, we identify more than 1,000 megahertz of prime mid-band spectrum for new and innovative use. These are airwaves in the 12.2 to 13.25 gigahertz band, which puts them right in the middle of the 17 to 16 gigahertz band we have already identified as the sweet spot for the 6G era. We are the first country in the world to identify these bands for new wireless use and take action. So what does this more than 1,000 megahertz of spectrum look like? We have ideas today. We believe these airwaves can be optimized with a mix of licensed, unlicensed, and space-based services. First, we take action to ensure the present and future of satellite services in the 12.2 to 12.7 gigahertz band. We recognize that millions of people rely on services in this band, and we want to see that continue. But we also realize there may be additional potential in these airwaves, so we are exploring ways to also use this mid-band spectrum for fixed licensed and unlicensed terrestrial services. Second, we identify the 12.7 to 13.25 gigahertz band as a prime candidate for new mobile use. So we explore how to put it in the pipeline now for new wireless broadband. So count this more than 1,000 megahertz as an investment in our wireless future. It is an investment in our leadership in 5G, 6G, and beyond. But back to the here and now. Because all of our planning for a bold future requires that we address something in the here and now. For us to be successful, we need to have Congress reauthorize the Spectrum Auction Authority of the Federal Communications Commission. For 30 years, this agency has held this authority, which it has used to distribute airwaves for new and innovative uses nationwide. The ongoing lapse in this authority has immediate consequences for 5G and could soon exact a toll on our 6G leadership. Now, in the past, Congress has always extended our auction authority without interruption. That didn't happen this time, and we need to fix it. Stat. That's because restoring this authority will provide the United States with the strongest foundation to compete in a global economy, counter our adversaries' technology ambitions, and safeguard our national security. So thank you to the many agency staff who worked on this effort, including Chris Andes, Simon Banyai, Robert Bickford, Stephen Buzzano, Baron Chan, Peter Duranko, Jessica Griffinius, Garnet Hanley, Lamine Cohn, Susanna Larson, John Lockwood, Madeline Mayer, Blaise Cinto, Joel Tavenblot, Natasha Wiltz, and Brian Wondrek from the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, Bahan Badapur, Michael Ha, Ira Keltz, Matthew Miller, Nicholas Aronos, Ron Rapazzi, and Tom Struble from the Office of Engineering and Technology, Craig Baumberger, Nicholas Copeland, Judith Dempsey, Paul LaFontaine, Catherine Matraves, Julia McHenry, Gary Michaels, Eric Salavora, Martha Stansell, and Donald Stockdale from the Office of Economics and Analytics, Deborah Broderson, Doug Klein, Keith McCrickard, and William Richardson from the Office of General Counsel. Greg Boren, Jennifer Gillison, Carl Kenziger, Catherine Medley, and Marissa Velez from the Space Bureau, Neshe Goldenberger, Dante Ibarra, Ethan Lucarelli, and James McCluckey from the Office of International Affairs, Jim Schlichting from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, Brendan Holland, Jeffrey Newman, and Seema Nelson from the Media Bureau, and Michael Gusso, Joy Ragsdale, and Shauna Wilkerson from the Office of Communications Business Opportunities. A whole lot of people doing a whole lot of work. And with that, we will proceed to a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, can you please read the next item on today's agenda?
Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners, item 3 on your agenda is titled Advanced Methods to Target and Eliminate Unlawful Robocall, Call Authentication Trust Anchor, and will be presented by the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau, and Alejandra Roark, Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Roark, please proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. Today, I am pleased to introduce on behalf of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau an item that, if adopted, would continue the Commission's important work to combat illegal calls. This item expands existing call blocking rules to cover a wider range of providers and proposes and seeks to comment on several options to further protect consumers from illegal calls, restore trust in caller ID, and hold voice service providers responsible for the calls on their networks. Before turning the presentation over to the Bureau staff, I'd like to thank the Enforcement, Public Safety and Homeland Security, and Wireline Competition Bureaus, as well as the Offices of Communication Business Opportunities, Economics and Analytics, and the General Counsel for their valuable assistance. Jerusha Burnett, Attorney Advisor in CGB's Consumer Policy Division, will present the item.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. Over the past several years, the Commission has made significant strides to protect consumers from unwanted and illegal calls. Even so, these calls remain the top source of consumer complaints. And many people have stopped answering their phones altogether. The order, further notice, and notice of inquiry before you, if adopted, would advance the Commission's important multi-pronged approach to protecting consumers, restoring faith in caller ID, and holding voice service providers responsible for the calls on their networks. The order expands to a wider range of voice service providers several of the rules the Commission adopted last year for gateway providers. These changes better protect consumers by ensuring that all calls that transit the U.S. network are covered by these rules. First, the order modifies the existing traceback requirement to require all voice service providers to respond to traceback within 24 hours, tightening the current requirement and that domestic providers respond fully and timely. Second, the order expands to originating providers the rule requiring blocking following Commission notification of illegal traffic. Failure to comply with these rules can result in all providers immediately downstream from the identified provider being required to block all of that provider's traffic. Third, the order requires all voice service providers, rather than only gateway providers, to take steps to ensure that the immediate upstream provider is not using the provider to carry or process a high volume of illegal traffic onto the U.S. network. Finally, the order ensures that robocall mitigation database filings align with the current rules. The further notice of proposed rulemaking seeks comment on additional steps to protect consumers from illegal calls, restore trust in caller ID, and hold voice service providers responsible for calls on their networks. First, it proposes and seeks comment on requiring voice service providers to block all calls in certain instances, including requiring terming providers to offer blocking of calls that are highly likely to be illegal based on reasonable analytics on an opt-out basis, requiring all voice service providers to block calls based on a reasonable do not originate list, and requiring blocking by non-gateway intermediate and terminating providers following Commission notification of illegal traffic in certain instances. Second, it seeks comment on requiring a specific SIP initiation protocol code, known as a SIP code, for immediate notification to callers when calls are blocked based on analytics, rather than allowing the use of one of several codes. Third, it seeks comment on requiring terminating providers to display caller name information when they choose to display an indication that a call has received full or A-level attestation. Finally, it proposes a base forfeiture of $11,000 per day for providers that fail to take affirmative, effective measures to prevent new and renewing customers from using their network to originate illegal calls. The notice of inquiry seeks comment on tools voice service providers use to combat illegal calls, such as honeypots, as well as on the status and use of call labeling. The Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench. Commissioner Carr.
Well, thanks so much. You know, as I've said before, every single reasonable step we can take to further crack down on illegal robocalls is something that I support and something that I do. You know, I wish, as everyone does, that there was a silver bullet here. No one wants to feel like we're playing whack-a-mole, but the reality is we really have to be vigilant. I think you can see by, I think even the title of this item, whether it's the 7th or 8th order in this proceeding, that, you know, we're trying to be vigilant and responding everywhere we can when we identify new ways, new mechanisms by which people either making illegal calls or that we can do more to respond and crack down on them. So thanks to the team for your work on this. It has my support.
Commissioner Starks.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Unwanted and illegal calls continue to plague Americans, interrupting our days and nights, targeting our vulnerable populations. And this persistent issue, as was said, unfortunately can't be overcome with a single effort. But that's why the good news here is that the Commission's work to combat robocalls can be defined as steady and multi-pronged. To be sure, we're adopting our 7th order, 8th FNPRM, 3rd NOI in 5 years. So each builds on the last as we take our learnings and apply them moving forward. And we have focused our actions on illegal callers, the bad actors that are providers and the providers who shield them, on addressing unlawful spoofing through stir shaken, requiring those providers who cannot fully implement it to develop those alternate mitigation programs. And so today's item strengthens both of those features. It builds on our prior rules and it attacks the robocall problem from all sides. You know, a year ago, we imposed a robust set of requirements on gateway providers to stop robocalls from reaching our domestic networks. And as many of you know, enforcement is part of my past and something that I continue to prioritize here. And just last week, pursuant to those rules, the Enforcement Bureau ordered providers to block and cease accepting traffic from international gateway provider One Eye. And so today we extend many of these gateway provider requirements to all voice service providers. We also extend our mandatory call blocking requirements, bringing all traffic that transits the U.S. networks under our call blocking rules as recommended based upon the great work that the Chairwoman has done with the 51 state attorneys general. I think that's outstanding work. Let me close here. In addition to imposing the new requirements today, we also seek comment on proposed further requirements continuing to build off our prior experience as well. Earlier this year in March, in our March order on caller ID authentication, we set a hefty per call max forfeiture for failure to block. And so in today's item, we propose a complementary approach, a new base forfeiture for any voice provider that fails to take affirmative effective measures to prevent its customers from using its network to originate illegal calls. So thank you again to the chair for her leadership. Thank you to the team for the hard work on this item. It has my support.
Thank you, Commissioner Starks. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. So, of course, I'm always delighted to hear about more action against robocalls. People ask, why don't we just ban robocalls? Well, you know, that's like saying, why don't you make it so that the bridges don't fall down? You know, why don't you make it so that the airplanes don't crash? You can get there. It takes a lot of work. And what's more, unlike natural disasters or failures of man-made systems, there are malign actors at work here, actors that we've already cracked down on, but that keep popping up like mushrooms after rain. So in other words, when we acknowledge that this is a continuous, ongoing process of response, that's another way of saying it's an enormous, ongoing pain in the neck for CGB and WCB. So I want to acknowledge everyone's ongoing, very frustrating at times, I'm sure, hard work in cracking down on this and keeping the promise of an open phone network where people really can trust their phones again, alive and well in this age of very high levels of connection, not all of it wanted. Thank you.
Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you also, Commissioner Starks, for acknowledging 7th Order, 8th FMPRM, 3rd NOI. And look, if you're tired of us developing new ways to combat robocalls, rest assured we're all tired of being in this business. But scam artists, they're creative. Whenever we shut down one call scheme, another one always pops up somewhere else. However, in the last 2 years, we've stopped more big robocall schemes than at any point in our history. We shut down a flood of junk calls about auto warranties. Remember those? We also shut down a fraudulent calling scheme involving student loans, and we shut down a predatory mortgage lending scheme responsible for millions of robocalls. Just last week, we shut down a gateway provider pumping robocalls in from overseas. This was a first-of-its-kind action by the Federal Communications Commission. We found a carrier responsible for so much junk traffic coming from abroad, we told every other carrier to block its calls. And this won't be the last time we use this hammer-like approach. That's because data suggests an increasing amount of robocalls heading to our homes and businesses are coming from shores far away. Today, we build on these efforts by clarifying some of our rules designed to put a halt to illegal robocalls. We make clear that all carriers have a duty to respond to traceback requests in 24 hours so we can figure out who is behind any new rash of illegal robocalls. We also make clear that when we ask originating carriers to mitigate junk calls from a specific provider, we mean block them, all of them. And we make clear that the duty to know your upstream provider applies to every single carrier that participates in the call path. On top of this, we seek comment about requiring additional analytics that can help identify suspect traffic on our networks and ask about other tools used to block robocalls, like setting up honeypots to catch those behind these scams. So no rest for the weary. We are simply not going to stop until we get this junk off the line. Thank you to the Robocall response team and to those at the agency who worked on this effort, including Alejandro Roark, Ediel Casperalta, Mark Stone, Aaron Garza, Christy Thornton, Karen Schroeder, and Jerusha Barnett from the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau. Mary Romano, Christy Thompson, and Daniel Stepanisic of the Enforcement Bureau, Elizabeth Druglia, Matt Collins, Zach Ross, Jonathan Lecter, and Jesse Goodwin of the Wireline Competition Bureau, David Firth, Kenneth Carlberg, John Evanoff, Gerald English, and Rasul Safavian of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, William Richardson, Shin Yu, Richard Mallon, Valerie Hill, Derek Yeo, and Andrea Kearney of the Office of General Counsel, Virginia Metallo, Eugene Kiselev, Mark Montano, and Michelle Schaefer of the Office of Economics and Analytics, and Jocelyn James of the Office of Communications Business Opportunities. With that, we will have a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item's adopted with editorial privileges as requested. All right. Would any of my colleagues like to make announcements at this time? Commissioner Carr. Commissioner Starks.
None for me.
Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I regret to announce that our intern, Kevin Howick-Horst, had his last day with my office last month. Kevin is a PhD candidate in economics at Indiana University and will graduate this year. He was an invaluable contributor to our team for the last year, and everyone in my office is sad to see him go. However, we expect great things from him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. But before we adjourn, I want to make one brief announcement. I want to see if Mary Kay Mitchell is in the audience here today. Oh, all right. We are going to recognize our remarkable Chief Administrative Officer, Mary Kay Mitchell. Now, it's a cliche to say that if it weren't for a certain person, I wouldn't be here right now. But it's 100% the truth that if it wasn't for Mary Kay Mitchell, none of us would be here right now. And if you don't know, it's because Mary Kay is the one person above all others who made the relocation of the FCC's headquarters to this new building happen. Now, at this point, I think it's fair to say that relocating a federal agency's headquarters during a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic is not for the faint of heart. But you see, Mary Kay is made of some strong stuff. She oversaw the design and construction of these new headquarters, worked on the decommissioning of our former building, and then managed the whole move. I don't know, I think that sounds almost impossible, but she did it. We're all here to prove it, and she did it with graceful leadership, good humor, superior problem-solving skills. Mary Kay simply was able to pull it all off. And for all of this, I really want to call her out today because she deserves our deepest appreciation. So we have chosen to formally recognize Mary Kay's contributions to the agency because we literally wouldn't be here without her. And so it's now my honor to present her with a Special Act Award So on behalf of my fellow commissioners and the FCC staff, we have 3 things to say to Mary Kay Mitchell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Come up and join us so we can get a picture and commemorate. Oh, my goodness. Oh, thank you so much. Wow. All right, Alejandro, you'll be the official photographer. Your chiefs play many roles. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, thank you very much. All right, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry for making that further. Oh, no. All right, that was different. So, Madam Secretary, will you please announce the next date for the Commission's monthly agenda meeting?
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission is Thursday, June 8th, 2023.
Until then, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. If we could take any outside conversations to the foyer, that would be really appreciated by us. We'll be getting started with the Chairwoman's post-open meeting press conference. And I see a few new faces who are joining us for the first time. So if you could do us the kindness of identifying yourself and which publication you're associated with, that would be really helpful on our end. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Chairwoman.
Thank you, Paloma. Hello, everyone. Before opening up for questions, I'm going to talk about one thing briefly. As this room knows, we have been hard at work developing new broadband maps to help identify where broadband is and is not all across the United States. Our work is guided by the Broadband Data Act and the efforts of some really dynamic staff here at the agency. This past November, we released a map that I think is light years ahead of what the agency previously produced. Instead of just accounting for where broadband is on the basis of census blocks, we've developed a mapping tool that is location-based. And by that, I mean every theoretically buildable household in the United States. When we released our work back in November, we called it a pre-production draft. That was because we were sharing a map that had not yet been subjected to the challenge process under the law. It was only a starting point. Since the pre-production draft was developed, stakeholders have stepped up to provide lots of information and challenges to our data, including roughly 600 bulk challenges from state and local governments. Our mapping team has been working with them, poring over the data and processing all of this incoming. In fact, our mapping team has processed challenges to availability data, to get this, for more than 4 million locations. And the majority of those challenges have led to updates to the data on the map. What we learned from this is that participation in our challenge process is important, and it's a powerful tool to improve accuracy. So right now, the team is completing this process and performing some final data quality checks, and in light of that, we expect to release the next version of the map, which incorporates these challenges, on May 30th. But our work's not done because we have a duty under the law to develop these maps in an iterative fashion. We are going to continue to release them twice a year. That means we are going to continue to accept challenges every day, every week, and every month. And when we receive them, we will process them. But the most important thing to know is that 2 weeks from now, on May 30th, the FCC will publish the next version of our new broadband maps. And those are the first maps to incorporate many of the challenges that came into its accuracy. All right, let me open the floor to questions about the maps, today's meeting, or whatever else may be on your mind.
Good morning, Chairwoman. Sanya Rao with CTFN. Thank you for your time today. I was hoping to talk to you about Tegna Standard General. In the last week, Commissioner Carr and Symington met with the parties involved in the proceeding. Is there any insight you can share on why your office didn't agree to meet with them as well? And second, if there's a possibility of us seeing a vote on this deal?
Because that is subject to an administrative proceeding, I can't speak about it right now, but I'd certainly encourage you to look at the hearing designation order and the 2 decisions upholding the FCC's process in the DC Circuit.
Hi, Chairwoman. David DiMalfetta with the Washington Post. Thanks for holding this. I've noticed over the past several months that the Commission hasn't publicly put out as much on AI regulations, and I think just anecdotally looking at things like the Robocall item today, and then other hot topics in AI coverage lately, like voice cloning or political ads, there seems to be some runway for where the Commission could regulate in that area. And I'm just wondering if the Commission has been thinking about that at all, and if so, when they might put out an item or just any regulation on that. Thanks.
Complex topic. The short answer is yes. The FCC held a forum on this a few years ago, and we've been looking at this technology for everything to robocalls to network reliability and self-healing. We're doing some work behind the scenes, but I don't have anything further to share with you right now.
Good morning, Chairwoman. Gabriella Novello, Communications Daily. I have a question about the USF budget control mechanism. My understanding is that there was a waiver of the budget control mechanism that was circulated recently. As you know, the current waiver is set to expire this June. So could you talk a little bit about that? And in addition to this apparent waiver, is there any more long-term action on the horizon regarding this issue?
You are absolutely correct that we recently circulated something. With respect to more details, I think we'll have to follow up with you with the Bureau Chief later.
Hi, Madam Chair. Chris Cole with Law 360. I just wanted to ask about the media ownership review. I'm just not asking for comment on pending litigation, but could you kind of give us an update on where that is?
We last put out for comment review of the quadrennial in December of 2022. We're taking in those comments, looking through them at this time. I also know that there is litigation in the DC Circuit involving the 2018 quadrennial, but the court has not yet asked us to respond to it.
Dave Shepherdson from Reuters. 2 questions for you. Can I ask what your current estimate is when the Affordable Connectivity Program may run out of money? I mean, I think industry folks estimate somewhere around mid-2024. How urgent is it, do you think, that Congress find a mechanism to fund the program going forward, given that there's close to 20 million people that are enrolled?
The Affordable Connectivity Program is a big deal. It's the largest broadband affordability program in our nation's history. As of today, 18 million households count on it to get online and stay online. It's a terrific program. I want to see it continue. I want to work with Congress to make sure that happens. Our best estimates of funding for the program vary because the program's only been around for a limited period of time, so it's neither perfect art nor science. But at this point, I would say that within the year, we expect the funds to deplete.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. And with that, I'm going to call up my colleague, Katie Gorsak, who's going to be running the Bureau press conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Paloma. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the Bureau press conference, where we'll take questions on today's meeting items. So why don't we start off with our first item from OET on unlocking cutting-edge radar-enabled technologies. Do we have any questions on the OET item? Gabriella? Okay, great. If y'all could come up. Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning. So just a quick question. Were there any major changes from the final draft? Anything to note?
No major changes. We had stakeholder considerations that we made clarifications and some corrections in the item, but no major changes to the bottom lines.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions on this item? No. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Next, we'll move on to our second item from WTB on optimizing spectrum for services from 6G to satellite. Any questions? Gabriella is nodding. Come on up.
I'm basically going to have questions for every item, so.
Okay, well then, thank you for setting the stage.
Good morning. So as I asked for the last item, if you could talk about whether there were any major changes from the draft, anything of note?
Yeah, similar answer to Ron's, no major changes in bottom line cuts or anything like that. We did add some additional questions to the item based on issues that stakeholders raised in the record, but no changes in the bottom lines.
Any other questions? Okay. And I know Gabrielle has another question, right? So we're gonna call up CGB for the expanding call blocking requirements item. Great, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello. So in addition to, of course, my standard question of whether there were any changes from the draft, I also wanted to ask if there's going to be, compliance requirements considering like a timeline for smaller providers, if you will be giving any extra consideration to providers that are going to have to take some extra time to be able to comply, at least with the order portion that was adopted today.
Got it. Well, yes, I mean, I'll first of all just start saying that, stopping illegal calls is one of the Commission's top consumer protection priorities. The Commission has taken a multi-pronged approach to this problem. And I'm really happy to and welcome kind of like Mark Stone and Jusha Burnett, who I think are our resident experts, to get deeper in the weeds about kind of the next steps. So Mark?
So the answer to your first question is no major changes to any bottom lines. The changes from the circulated version are just adding a few questions and doing a little bit more justification, and on the small.
So the order has 180 days for implementation for the rules adopted. And so that's a fairly extended period. For the traceback rule specifically, the order does mention possibility of waivers for providers that really do have a hardship, whether that's for a small provider or for someone else who has a real problem meeting it. So there's not anything built in beyond those timelines, but of course the Commission will always consider waiver requests if needed.
And additionally, I know there was at least one request that the 24-hour traceback deadline be extended to, either 48 hours or allow providers to at least acknowledge that they were given this traceback request, and so that way they had enough time to fully and accurately respond. What kind of consideration was given to that request? My understanding is that it's still just the 24-hour response.
Yeah, still 24 hours. It's considered, and you'll see it resolved in the item. I would note there's a waiver option for folks that feel like 24 hours doesn't work for them. So that would be the opportunity if someone is feeling like 24 hours isn't enough.
Thank you. Yep. Any other questions on this item? No? All right, thanks. And this will conclude today's Bureau Presser. I believe Commissioner Carr is in the room if he is interested in coming up as well. Thank you so much.
Hey, happy to kick it off. We can start down here.
Good morning, Commissioner. Sanya Rao here with CTFN. Last week, your office, along with Commissioner Symington's office, met with the parties in the Tegna Standard General proceeding.
Yeah.
Are there more such meetings on the book, and what do you see as the next steps here?
I'm happy to take any more meetings there. I mean, there's sort of two things going on with that transaction right now. As a procedural matter, there's some set of issues that have been referred to the ALJ that are subject to the HGO, and therefore any meetings that touch on that subset of issues are governed by those procedures there, including ex parte rules. And so to the extent the meeting that I held touched on those issues, we had a meeting with all the parties there, and FCC staff was there as well. There's broader sets of issues, even dealing with the transaction itself, that weren't part of the HGO, and therefore there's an entire other sort of set of issues that could be addressed and discussed without sort of triggering any of the constraints around an HDO. I'm happy to meet anytime that people want to meet on this. I think it's an issue where, as I've made my voice clear on this, I think I disagree with the process that's been pursued here. I think the parties deserved an up or down decision on the merits from the FCC. And I think even if you step back from this particular transaction and you look at the signal that this process sends to broadcasters as a general matter, or anybody that has a transaction before the FCC, I think it's not a good sign, because it shows that you can engage in a year-plus long process at the FCC and then at any point in time sort of fall through a procedural trapdoor where apparently there's no near or middle-term prospect for getting a real decision on the merits. And I think that's a troubling sign. Again, we need to be incentivizing massive levels of investment in the broadcast industry, TV and radio alike. As I said in my very first statement, I think the newspaper precedent is one that we should be very cognizant of, which is, we have seen newspapers shutter across this country by the thousands, obviously the internet and Craigslist, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But at the same time, we had rules on the books at the FCC that prevented additional investment in ownership of newspapers that I think only contributed to that decline. And so I've said before, I think we're sort of at a break glass moment with America's broadcasters, where we really need to be, as a default, setting aside any rule that is going to be disincentivizing investment, because we don't want to see local newsrooms, whether they're radio or TV, and the journalists there, they're doing such great work across the country, be unable to continue to do that work for lack of investment. So I'm concerned about the process here in this particular proceeding, but more broadly concerned about the signal we're sending to people that might want to invest more in this industry that desperately needs it.
Hey, Commissioner. David DiMalfetta with the Washington Post. Thanks for talking with us. A similar question I gave to the Chairwoman. What kind of runway or statutory runway do you see the FCC having in regulating AI? And I'm just wondering if you're talking with the Chairwoman or other commissioners about setting up items that fall in the vein of AI regulations, just given the fact that we haven't seen as much out of the FCC in this area. Thanks.
Yeah, AI is certainly a hot topic right now. I don't think there's a lack of DC officials looking at it. A lot of discussion obviously taking place in Congress right now. And I think if you look at where the technology is in its development, I think those high-level discussions taking place in Congress about what's the right policy at a very sort of high-level guardrail do we want to put in place as AI continues to be developed is an appropriate place for those discussions to be taking place. I'm open whether there's room to use and leverage the technology either to help achieve some of the FCC's goals, as we heard, I think, from the chair talk about robocalls maybe as one area where we can use it. But as a general matter, I think there are a lot of sort of the right policymakers in DC talking about this early enough where we can put a broad framework in place, and we'll see how those discussions go.
Hi, Commissioner. So the Chairwoman noted earlier that the next iteration of the broadband maps is going to come out May 30th, but I wanted to ask you about the funding maps that just came out this week. Have you had a chance to look at them yet? I know you've talked a little bit in the past about the concerns about overbuilding with all this money that's been coming out the door. What are you thinking as you look at the funding map, the current availability map, the one that's going to be coming out? Kind of how are you approaching all of this, and what would you like to see happen based on the data that we now have available?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance yet to look at that first map that you mentioned, or maybe the second in the order of your question. But I do think it's going to be important. I do want to look at it because that is a map that was put in place as part of a way, as you pointed out, of addressing potential overbuilding. The idea is that we look at a lot of different agencies that have funding for broadband, and we ask them to filter into this database, to this other FCC map, what they're doing, where they're doing it. And I think that's going to be an important check to ensure that we have coordination in terms of all of these different federal spending initiatives. So I think it's important that we get that piece of it right, and I want to take a look to make sure that we do that. Stepping back more broadly to the other map, the map that will come out at the end of the month based on the Chairwoman's statement, it's really vital that we hit the mark there. When you look at that sort of first iteration of the map, I think a lot of the data that was put forward fell pretty far wide of the mark. I think, as the chair indicated, it hadn't been subject to the challenge process. So there's a real high hurdle that we have to clear with this next version of the map in order to enable the administration to move forward with an allocation of funding based on the BEAD framework.
Hi, Commissioner. Is this working? Hi. I just wanted to circle back on TEGNA because some lawmakers had asked for an OIG report. I'm wondering if you feel that the chair's office has adequately communicated with Congress about how this was handled.
No comment on that from my perspective. I'm not sort of fully read in on the communications between the chair and Congress on that one. I mean, my comments have focused obviously just on the process as I've observed it.
Hey, Commissioner, Dave Shepardson from Reuters. Two quick questions for you. One, you've spoken on a lot about TikTok. I wanted to ask you about what you thought about Montana's decision to ban TikTok, and then from a tech standpoint, how likely or realistic is it that they could effectively ban the use of TikTok within the state?
Yeah, I think it's a great step by Governor Gianforte and by the Montana legislature. I think it's the right thing to do when you look at national security. I think the bans we've seen in place to date have focused principally at the state level on bans on state level devices. I think that's a really good first step, but obviously I think we need to go beyond that and address it as a nationwide matter. And this is something that Congress has been taking a look at as well. There's some bills already that are out there on that. But in the interim, I'm glad to see steps that states are taking. In terms of the issue of how do you do it on a state-by-state basis, I don't think that presents that much more challenging of an issue than doing it on a countrywide basis, and we have precedent for that. Obviously, India in 2020 has banned the app, and there's always going to be border issues there in terms of how do you do that. And I think that's something that we can be solving as a technology matter. So that doesn't give me much pause.
Mm-hmm. And then can I ask on the ACP program, sort of what your thoughts are as we look ahead to next year when the program is likely to run out of money? So what's the way forward, do you think, in terms of what do you do with the folks in the program?
Yeah. We had a lot of discussions about this when we set up the program as to how do we address the potential ending of the program. We put some very sort of specific metrics in place as to how you do that. More broadly, though, my focus in this program, as I've sort of said from the get-go, is we have to really work towards making sure that the program benefits those families that had been stuck on the wrong side of the digital divide. That the potential for this program to really bring a significant number of people across that digital divide is very important. And so as we go forward looking at the end of it, I think it's important that we have that discussion about the future of ACP based on a common set of facts. I think there's a lot of interest in that right now as to get harder data about where the funding has been going, what are the families that have been benefiting from it. And I think once we get that data set and a more clear picture there, I think that'll provide then the factual foundation upon which Congress can have sort of the policy debate about what to do with the program.
Can I actually ask a follow-up question on the same topic? I know the National Lifeline Association, one of the things they've advocated for is taking that $30 subsidy through ACP and making Lifeline an up to $30 instead of, I think it's like an $8 or $9 at the moment benefit. And one of their arguments is that that's a change that the FCC could do without Congress. Is that something that you would be open to? Have you had discussions about something like that for when ACP does end, if there is no additional funding? That way, folks that may have been eligible for both programs can then start receiving Lifeline?
Look, when it comes to potential options, any option going forward, I'm open-minded at this point. Again, I think the most important thing is for us to sort of really do some stock taking on this particular program, understand where it went, where did it succeed, there's other changes that need to be made, and then once we get that factual predicate, it'll be a lot easier at that point, relatively easier, to then have the policy discussion about the path forward. So I'm open-minded at this point as to where we go. So, all right, thanks all.
Thank you.